So this week on our podcast, we had a special guest, Jessica Kleinschmidt, called into us from the Bay Area, where she's currently on lockdown because of all this coronavirus mess. For those of you who don't know, she's a sports writer with NBC Sports. She's been on Bleacher Report, Fox Sports, MLB Nation, Cut 4, a lot of cool things. But is first and foremost a fan of baseball. So that's really cool. She grew up loving the Oakland A's, and now she's working in the Bay Area. So dreams do come true. Apparently, she grew up playing baseball and only switched to softball her sophomore year in high school. So I thought that was interesting because, you get all those stick to softball sweetie comments, but like she grew up in baseball. So that's pretty awesome. So she translated a blog into her career, and we got to ask her some questions, some baseball, some not baseball, as we are wont to do. And I hope y'all enjoy our Q&A with Jessica Kleinschmidt. So we are here with Jessica Kleinschmidt, baseball reporter, currently working with NBC Sports. And so our first question for you is, we all know there's no baseball. There's no anything else sports-wise going on right now. We're trying not to wallow and cry. But what is your silver lining? Like, what have you been doing with the extra time?
Yeah, I mean, the silver lining is more like for my soul as opposed to the actual shutdown of all the sports. For me, it's like, I want to fine tune little things. Like I'm home a lot more now, so I can learn to cook meals that I don't have to make in 2 minutes, and stuff like that. But also I want to learn how to just remember this time and think about it this way. Like for me, as somebody who reports on baseball, this is a great moment in history that I get to talk about forever. And when I do come back to baseball, it's going to be that much more emotional. And I know, like, I'm working in the game long enough to where sometimes this does feel like a job, which sucks because I didn't sign up for it to be a job. I genuinely love what I do, but there's days where they're long. And when you cover the Giants part-time, there's, 18 inning games that happen a lot. And those days are long, so it's kind of like from that perspective, like I know I won't be taking for granted a live baseball game. And I feel like that's like a really good silver lining to think about. And, just how we process social media too. Before I was ever on any other platform, social media is how I got my start. And I feel like if you have a bigger mind, people make fun of me for being on social media 24/7. Now they're asking me, can you help me with some things? Because we have nothing to do besides go on Twitter, go on Instagram Live and stuff like that. So I'm the perfect person to ask that because I feel like there's always a silver lining to everything. So
yeah, awesome.
If you weren't a journalist, if you weren't working in baseball, what would you be doing?
That's a really great question. Believe it or not, I don't get asked that ever. I think I wanted to do this since I was 12 years old. And so I got very lucky knowing that I can say that that's what I'm doing. But it changed over time. When I was really young, I wanted to be an interior designer. I really loved, looking at a space and figuring out how to make it look pretty. But then I know you have to work with clients, and I would be very selfish. But that's not what you want. Like, no, it's what I want. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. It looks, so I'd be too selfish from that perspective. And I really wanted to be a veterinarian, but I hate school, so that wasn't going to be great either. So I think nowadays, though, like, it's even more difficult thing to answer, but I have been kind of interested in PR work. So I think PR could have been something interesting, probably in sports too, just because I'm obsessed with baseball. But lately, it's interesting because you asked me that 10 years ago, and I didn't know that journalism or reporting was actually going to be something I would do. It would just change over time. So nowadays, I like the PR aspect possibly.
Cool. So how did you kind of fall into it if you didn't think?
Yeah, I mean, falling is probably the most perfect word to describe it, because I didn't go to school for this. I tried school, and it's so awkward because I talk to colleges sometimes, and I tell the professor, like, did you tell them that like I don't have a degree? And it's just, I don't think that you need a degree to do, especially this job. It's not like I'm a surgeon and I need a degree, I'm a lawyer or anything like that. But for me, it was about like, I wanted to write something from a fan perspective, but also be responsible about it. Not just say like, oh, this is, I know fan interaction is super important, but I also want to know the game well enough to know where people will take me seriously, which is such a difficult thing to do when you're in my position, because I'm super funny and I'm super sarcastic, but you also have to look at me as a reporter sometimes, and it's hard to find that balance. So for me, it was kind of creating my own norm, and that was developing a blog that I was like, I just want to kind of do this and see what happens. And a little blog turned into keep on, continuously getting discovered. And then I was working for the federal government for almost 10 years. And I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. So I quit during my morning break, I was like, I think I'm just going to like quit and move to the Bay Area and try to be a journalist and work for the A's or those Giants, which was the dumbest and smartest thing I could ever do. And I put my 2 weeks in, and my boss, who was like a mom to me, she was like, please don't do this. We'll pay for your education. And I was like, you can pay for my education, but like, I suck at school and I hate school. It's going to be a waste of y'all's money. And people already hate the government as it is. I don't want them wasting any more money. So it was just kind of like that. And so I did that and I quit, and I just kind of kept getting discovered. And my big break was when I got with the Cut 4 a couple years ago. And I didn't think I was going to get that job. And that was when I was freelancing, not thinking I was actually going to make this into a career. And I called Melanie Newman, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I tried, I gave it a year and a half. It's just not going to happen. And then on the other line was Cut 4 offering me this job. And so then that's when NBC recruited me. So for me, it was like a stumble. It was me being a hard ass and just me being extremely stubborn. And when people said no, I just kind of flipped them off and go do it. And that ultimately helped me. And I wasn't rude about it. It was just like, I knew the type of person I was. I needed to get to a certain spot, and I just worked my ass off, and here I am. After like a couple glasses of wine, the story gets like more emotional, but it was just, that's the cute version of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, we already talked about the silver lining to no baseball and everything. And with half of the country on quarantine right now, we wanted to know of any living person who, if you had to pick one living person, who would you want to be quarantined with?
A living person. All the cool people are dead, man.
Or you could just pick the three of us. That's fine.
Yeah, I could just be quarantined with y'all. Probably my best friend Courtney, and it's funny, not funny. She was supposed to visit me this weekend, and all this happened, and obviously she couldn't visit. So the whole coronavirus is a little bit more personal with me. I'm like, you didn't let my best friend visit, like so rude. And so I just wish that her and I could just hang out for a little bit. And she hates sports. She could give crap about them, which is great because she's the perfect escape from like a 12-hour, but she married a Yankees fan, so she like pretends to know who Aaron Judge is. And I guess there's worse people you can pretend to know, but
I was about to say, at least he's the cute one. So
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like he's like the one you could actually want to watch, right? So it's fine when he's healthy. But from that perspective, so it'd probably be her only because I'm really missing her a lot.
Oh. It came out that the MLB wants to cover the minor leaguers through April 8th, and then I guess the clubs are going to be talking about possibly taking it from there. Mm-hmm. But we were wondering, like, how the guys that are in the minor leagues, like, if they're giving you any reactions, what the people are talking about, any rumblings, even guys that are in the majors that, have been through the grind of the minors, like, what they think about everything that's going on.
And as far as what I'm hearing from the major guys, they're kind of worried about just so many other things. I'm not saying this is not important to them, but they want to make sure like their wives have a place to go. And the wives, I was getting so many texts like, do you know where we're going? Because they sure as hell didn't. And so that was kind of interesting to see it from a family perspective. And for the minor leaguers, I mean, the thing I love about them is they're so humbled by everything, but they are so used to scraping by that it wasn't as, I guess, intense as everybody else was thinking about it. And you know how you have beautiful people like Emily Walden who just will actually step up to the plate and do something.
Right.
She's got a great relationship with the players too, and she, you know, they'll open up to her. So from the guys that I've spoken to, a lot of them were just curious about whether or not they were gonna, you know, have food on the table. The other half, they were great about it. They're like, well, I just have to go get a job. And, you know, I dated a college baseball player forever ago, and it was no different when he would come home. He would just need to get another job. And so that's what's cool about it, is they just know they have to spring into action and do something. For me personally, I was just pissed off. It just felt, but I also get it because we were all kind of getting news so fast and things were changing so quickly. I was shocked that we were in lockdown in the Bay Area. I was completely shocked. And it was just kind of like things were just escalating every single hour. So they didn't really have a chance to react to everything. But I do like the way that they handled it. I'm hearing other rumblings that are kind of off the record for the moment, but it's difficult because sports were the first thing to shut down and over everything. And that's my livelihood. You know, that's where I get paid. That's the love of my life is baseball. And so just to see that them going through the same things you're going through is in a weird way comforting. And but I feel awful for what they're going through, but I'm glad they're helping out. And I think that's super important because people tend to forget that minor league baseball players, that is a job. It's a legitimate job. They have families to take care of. They go to work every day, not quite like the rest of us, but they do go to work every day. So I'm glad they're being taken care of. And, you know, a lot of it's a waiting game, and I hope people are understanding of that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So hopefully you're privy to something. You can't tell us about this, but if you can't, but just your own personal guess about what you think is going to happen with the season. Like, are we going to start back after the All-Star break? How does that affect, you know, these one-year deals? Like, we have like Ozuna on our team, but then there's Mookie Betts is obviously the big one. Like, how are these contracts going to be affected if you don't play 162 games, if you don't play at all?
Right.
You really hope that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
No, I know. And it's, you know, I guess I went from more of like a selfish way of how are a lot of the like records going to be impacted, because I'm kind of a sucker for, you know, like, will these certain guys join the 3,000 club? Will, you know, so on and so forth. So that's going to be like a really big thing to talk about on Baseball Reference for years. And I guess I didn't really think about it, but I do know from the front office people that I've spoken to, they do want to have the games kind of play out as if it were the first day of opening day. So if the first actual day was May 27th, whoever they're playing, whether it was the first, second, third, fourth game of that series, that's still how it's going to play out. And the only thing that sucks, though, is like, I mean, the people that handle scheduling in Major League Baseball, they're brilliant. They figure these things out. I worry about little things as, you know, well, how many times do they go up against their NL West rival, or how many times do they go up against the Astros, the thing from an A's perspective. And that's like also from a TV perspective, we're not going to be able to get that many really cool scenes because we know everybody's going to be watching Mike Fiers against the Astros, or there's a really big NL East rivalry going on or something like that. And time's going to go by where people are going to forget about the Astro stuff, and people are going to forget about these little things. And it's that sucks.
We will not forget, but someone out there might.
Hashtag never forget.
They will never forget. And I saw that one tweet, and it was like, I know all this stuff's happened with the coronavirus, but let's not forget we really hate the Astros.
Yeah.
Priorities, guys. Priorities.
Never forget. But and so that's where my mind went. I guess, and you know, like I said, I didn't really think about it, but if I were to have to say, like, off the cuff, like, playing it like it lies is fine. God, y'all, I would kill for December baseball because, like, my birthday's in December and I've never been able to go to a baseball game around my birthday.
Mine's in November, same thing.
Yeah, so it's like you always say like maybe I'll have a half birthday to celebrate it like during the season. That never actually happens. So that would be kind of cool, and like then we can actually maybe like look at weather conditions and think maybe the guys can suck it up a little bit more and play in snow, and like football players do it. Like why the hell not? You know, and so stuff like that. Like that's more of like on my wish list type of stuff. But I'd say play as it lies, and then I mean, there were talks about cutting the season years ago, like to 150 games. So I think it would just be a more exaggerated situation. But there's so many extra things they'd have to think about with records and, winning percentages. And would we even have an all-star break? Or would that be moved to the end of the season instead? Like, you never know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I'm just, because you hear all the time more and more about sports betting and stuff and all these over-unders, like it's pretty hard to get to 100 wins if you play 120 games.
Yeah. Right. No, I agree. I totally agree. Because I think, first of all, those are always so off. I hate looking at the projections and you're sitting there like, this guy's going to do so much better than these projections say, but I get what it is. But I always look at them like, did they see a different roster? Like, what is happening? I don't know. Biased because nobody's
like 93 or something.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
Yeah.
And of course I'm biased. And like I grew up an A's fan too, so I'm like used to a scrappy team. But I think they said they were gonna get 89 wins or something like that, which is like a huge smack in the face. I'm like, did y'all see the roster? Or but I'm not upset about it. I am.
So, speaking of the A's, like we kind of all follow the Braves minor leaguers. You know, you hear Pache and Waters and stuff all the time, but we're trying to like expand our knowledge. So who would you say is the most exciting A's minor leaguer? Like who should we keep an eye on out there? Who are you excited to watch this year?
I really have like this affinity with Jonah Heim, and so he's technically the third, I guess you call him the third string catcher right now. He's just a huge magnet for injuries, and that's his downfall. And if you're in the AAA, you're playing in the Pacific Coast League, which y'all, I hit 300 there. I can hit the crap out of the ball there. And I'm from Reno, so I covered these guys who, when they played it in Reno, Greater Nevada Field, which is basically Coors Field, but like on crack. And so pitchers hated pitching there. But you got to see some of these guys like get this huge ego boost and they get bumped up, like, and then like Hunter Renfroe did a really beautiful job of transitioning, but they don't all do that. Jonah Heim, though, the reason why he's an injury bug is because the guy can just flat out play. And I love watching him play. And of course, he being the third string was kind of going in and playing a lot more spring games than our actual first string guy. The guy who's supposed to start for catcher, Sean Murphy, had knee surgery in the off season, so they were easing him in. But we got to watch Jonah Heim. That's the beauty of spring training. And so I really feel like him versus Austin Allen is going to be a bigger backup competition that people are realizing. And the only thing that sucks is the A's have kind of a weaker farm system only because all of their stronger guys are now up. We have a very young rotation that we get to watch, which is great. So a lot of the prospects that I would be preaching to y'all last year, I'm just going to say watching the big league stage because they're up there now. But I definitely like Jonah Heim, and I got to be honest, unfortunately, it's not like a great farm system right now, but that's a good thing.
They're all there now, so that's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a couple of friends of ours who also recently started a podcast. It's called Chatting Average. They're two guys, all of us met on Braves Twitter. They're also on Braves Twitter. Cameron and Alex are awesome. And their question for you was, what can up and coming, like newer podcasts, what can we do to get industry professionals on our show without being pests? Because no one wants to deal with a pest.
I mean, pests annoy the crap out of me constantly, and so I get that for certain. And I didn't want to sound pretentious. It's just like it's how you go about it. I don't mind getting emails from anyone. I really, really don't. And a lot of times I don't have time to do it, and I think that's what the case is with a lot of them. For the most
So now would be a good time to hop on everyone that has nothing going on.
Yes.
Okay.
I responded to so many emails of podcast appearances in the last week because I have the time to do it. And it's never about, and a lot of times, like I said, because my commute into work is an hour and a half each way. And that could be so much time where I could be cooking or sleeping or on a freaking podcast. I don't have time to do that anymore. When I was working from home at Cut 4, I could do it in the middle of a shift. It was no problem. And so it's kind of like that. But my advice is so say, for instance, you and I would be talking about something and you want a certain guest, and the next time you could just be like, oh, this person reminds me of X, Y, and Z. Tag them on Twitter and let them know, like, this person kind of resonates with whoever. Or even something as simple as, you have to kind of put like more content out there, and if you get the right person to say, or get a retweet for somebody like me, and then you get asked, and I can vouch for you. That's fine too. And this all sounds so pretentious. I'm so sorry, but it's just it sounds so stupid. But it's just, once you get your product out there and you're yourself, sometimes your product just speaks for itself. And it sounds so silly, but I've created so many podcasts, and the one thing I've noticed is when they're super successful is when you don't try to be like anybody else. If you're just yourself, like I know that's a Pinterest quote. That's literally your power. Nobody can recreate what you do individually. And so if you guys have your own way, you have like your own hashtag, your own ways about you. You guys are just three Braves fans, like hanging out, talking about stuff. And especially with the female dynamic, that's beautiful. And so if you just kind of stick from that and push more stuff out there, you'll get ears on you, you'll get eyes on you. And then, you start seeing bigger and bigger names come on the podcast. And then it kind of creates this, telephone game, or, yeah, I've been on that before, or, hey, Jess, was this a fun podcast? And I'm like, hell yeah, it was great, and stuff like that.
Awesome.
We're just trying to have a damn good time, and want anybody who wants to come have fun with us, please come on.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you have to start it out that way, because, it's at the end of the day, like, and this is the perfect time to do it when we're all in quarantine. Like, we need that, connection. And the one thing that y'all have in common is this baseball, is the Braves. And, this creates more things for baseball, because there's not that many fun baseball podcasts out there. And so you have to, and then you make Major League Baseball happy, because you create FOMO, and the people want to go to the games, they want to spend the money, they want to be out there, they want to be socializing and meet y'all in person, and do, have like a tailgate and stuff like that. Like, it creates so much buzz and so much fun, and it's all like from this one common thing, and it's a good thing.
Awesome. Thank you. So, it's me. We have a thing about food.
Same.
So it's kind of a two-parter. The first part is, what is the best sandwich you've ever had?
So I'm like always like split. So I like a really good hamburger that has like the Western burger, that's like the meat, the cheese, the onion rings, the barbecue sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, mama. And then on the other side, I'm a huge buffalo wing fan. Like, I love chicken wings. So I like a buffalo chicken sandwich.
Okay.
I love that. But I like the chipotle mayo on it, because you have to like saute the buffalo chicken and the buffalo chicken, but then you put chipotle mayo on it, like an aioli, and a brioche bun, and some pepper jack cheese. I'm going to say it's so good. Like, it's the best. And pretty much you can put anything on a brioche bun, like, life is good, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
And you class it up a little, so.
Oh yeah. You say like aioli, people are like, oh, she went to France, didn't she? You're like, okay. But and so for me, like, actually today I went to the grocery store, God willing, and I could not find burgers anywhere, and I had to settle for a turkey burger, which is fine, but like, I need that red meat, and I just feel like I'm always preaching don't settle, and I settled today, and don't do that. There was like, you can get like, there was burgers, but like, to feed a family of 80, and I don't have a family of 80 lying around, so it's just like, we'll see.
Exactly.
Desperate times. It's okay.
Yeah, it was just like a weird. Oh God, it sucked, because I can't stop thinking about a cow, and I have to settle. It's okay.
It's the story of my life. I'm always on the search.
Okay, so second part of that, what is the best meal you've ever had on the road?
Oh, actually, well, there's quite a few. Because especially if you're like with the right person and know what to order. I think when I went to the World Series, like they always kind of like outdo themselves because so I was the last World Series, like we had a dessert cart that was like brought to us.
Ooh.
Like we got to make our own sundaes, and this was at Minute Maid Park. And then the cool part about that was the food was like named after Houston stuff. So they had like Nolan Ryan baked beans or something. I was like, okay. But
we're going all
phenomenal.
in.
Yeah, like the barbecue was just phenomenal. I love barbecue. So I had that and like that dessert cart. And then of course their beer was really good. And what else did they have there? I think that's all I can remember. But I've never been able. The place I really want to do, like go and just get crazy, is Chase Field with the Diamondbacks, because they always have like stuff that like looks cute on Instagram, but you can't actually eat it. But I'm like hoping that it's like I can actually eat it, you know.
Right.
So that's the place that I just want to be like, NBC, give me $100. Well, probably like 300 if I want 4 things, and let me just go crazy. And so probably that's like the next target.
Yeah, that's where we were supposed to open up the season, but that's okay.
Oh, that's my bad. Too soon, Jess.
It's too soon.
I mean, we were all complaining about the West Coast games, but damn, we didn't want them canceled like this.
Yeah, it's like you're like, I want to play on the West Coast, and they're like, okay, and you're like, no, it's not even that.
Well,
Yeah, like,
and then
everybody
Freddie
knows
Freeman.
Right.
Freddie Freeman did this video on they have this Behind the Braves YouTube. I'm sure other teams do it too, but like spring training videos to get us all hype. And Freddie was like, World Series or nothing. And we're like, we got nothing.
Damn it.
Okay, Frederick.
Like, well,
all right.
listen to you, Freddie. Good Lord. Oh, God.
Yep.
So do you have any like last words of just advice or anything for us while we get started?
Just have fun with it, honestly, and don't put too much pressure on yourselves. At the end of the day, it's like, even though me, like, I feel like I put so much pressure on myself. I work in sports. It's fun, you know, and I love the challenges of it, because a year ago, you wouldn't catch me dead on TV. I did not want to do any television. And now I look at it as, okay, it's an extra thing to do. And you know how people want to be on TV to be cool and famous? Like, that's whatever. It's like, oh, I want to add this to my repertoire. And you have to kind of keep challenging yourself from that aspect. But, you know, at the end of the day, just be proud of your product and be true to it. And just know that if people aren't listening, that's okay. If people aren't watching, that's okay. If my mom wasn't around, nobody would read my articles. So it's all right. And I know that because she said I've been improving on my writing, and I was like, oh, so you have been reading them. Okay.
Good job, Mom.
So yeah, so it's just, you know, from that perspective. So at the end of the day, you're sitting here, you're talking about sports with people who have that in common with you. And if you ever want to shoot me an email or something, I don't care if whether it's you three or anybody else, I'm always open to talk to y'all about advice. We need more women in this industry so badly, because when I first got in the industry, I got harassed by women like you wouldn't believe. And it took a long time for them to be like, okay, well, I have her back, but we're not going to, there's competition, because it's so weird with women. We're like that. But at the same time, like, we're all in this together. I offer something that not a lot of people do, and so does she, and so does she, and so does she. Like, chill. We're fine. Like, there's no reason to be a dick at all.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've always wanted to end a speech like that.
Well, we're glad we can help you.
There is no reason to be a dick at all. Mic drop.